Welcome everyone to this session organized by RVO and the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The session is on supporting transitional societal transitions in deltas through long-term partner engagement. My name is Guus Schutjes and I work for the Dutch government on water. The reason why I wanted to have this session is the unacknowledged importance of long-term delta cooperation. Long-term cooperation in general seems to be swimming against the tide of short-term project cycles and policies. We have designed this session in such a way that we enable dialogues about relationships, both institutional and between people. I was inspired to do so because I noticed real changes in thinking about delta management through various bilateral dialogues. With our partner Delta countries and in Holland. Apparently, more has happened than could be seen superficially. I hope that at the end of the session, you and I have a clearer and more in-depth view of the fruitfulness of long-term cooperation. Perhaps even a basis for further exploration in the future. For today's session, we have asked the help of Annika Altaf to guide us through the meeting as our moderator. But before I give her the floor, I want to introduce my colleague, friend, and co-host, Laurent Umans. He's the water specialist of the Dutch government in Hanoi. Laurent, over to you.
Laurent, you're muted. Could you please unmute?
Yeah, thank you, Guus.
Unfortunately, Laurent's connection is very unstable. Laurent, we can't hear you. So I propose, Guus, if you would like to say something on behalf of Laurent, you can, and otherwise we continue.
I might give it a try.
I'll have a try. Laurent is back again. In this case, I will say something on behalf of Laurent Umans. Laurent himself has, during the time he is spending in Vietnam, he has experienced the bilateral cooperation, how it has been developed, and in this booming economy of Vietnam. And he emphasizes the strong importance of this bilateral cooperation. I would leave it up to that at this point. We are a bit struggling with the connection with Vietnam.
Thank you very much, Guus, and I will take over from here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Annika Altaf, and I'll be the moderator today. It's my absolute pleasure to be here and to discuss this very relevant but underexposed topic, as was eloquently explained by Guus. Today, we will be zooming into collaborations from different angles and geographical contexts through 4 conversations. We have divided these into 2 blocks, and after each block, we will have some room for questions. Please use the chat function to pose your questions. We have a packed program today, so I'm very excited to start right away with our first conversation, discussing a 30-year bilateral relationship between Egypt and the Netherlands. Now, looking back at this relationship at the highest level in a complex water management landscape, what can we learn? Deputy Minister and First Undersecretary Dr. Raghab Abdelazim from the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation is here to share his experiences with us. He is accompanied by Ms. Perihan Alam from the Netherlands Embassy in Cairo. A warm welcome to you both. Dr. Abdelazim, could you please tell us a bit more about how this relationship started and what you think is the most inspiring contribution of this relationship?
Okay, thank you, Annika. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ragab Abdulazim, and I'm going to talk about the long history of the cooperation between Egypt and the Netherlands in water sector. Really, this cooperation, if I want to talk about, it needs hours, but I will try to keep short, in my talking points. In fact, this cooperation is a unique model. I have personally participated in some projects, mainly the drainage water reuse project, yearly in my working in the ministry. And now I am honored to be a member of the Egyptian Dutch panel since about 4 years ago. Back to the history of cooperation, Egypt in 1970s decided to launch a large-scale drainage program, to protect the old land, about 6 million faddan, or about 3 million hectares of cultivated land, to protect it from waterlogging and salinity. So Egypt government requested cooperation with Dutch government, which resulted in launching a bilateral cooperation program on drainage in 1976, guided by a mechanism. Really, it was a very important and a unique mechanism. We call it Egyptian Dutch Advisory Panel. This mechanism supported this cooperation and achieved a lot of accomplished. This drainage, or the huge, large-scale drainage program, had its impact really on farmers, where the waterlogging salinity improved, and then the crop yield increased by about 30%. And hence it has an overall impact on the national economy. The success of this project was, increase of interest of farmers to implement the drainage in their fields. The willingness of farmers to share the cost of drainage. So it was a very successful cooperation project between Egypt and Egyptian and Netherlands. But over years, many outstanding projects and accomplished occurred. And let me go through them fast. I'm going to talk about the key projects through this cooperation. First, reuse of drainage water projects, and this was very important to the water management in Egypt. So the panel, the advisory panel, Egyptian Dutch advisory panel, assisted the ministry to formulate the policy of drainage water reuse and management. This project started in 1980s and included very important activities. Established of monitoring program for drainage water quality and quantity, covering 100 locations, and developed a mathematical model, it's a very famous model, we call it CUR model, to study the effect of different water management strategies on the quantity and the quality of drainage water and its suitability for irrigation reuse. Through this project, the ministry was able to identify the potential for drainage water reuse since that time, and currently we're still using drainage water to close the gap between the available water resources and the increasing water demand. So, and this drainage reuse project had its impact on increasing the overall efficiency through capturing drainage water and get it back to the irrigation system. Another really field of accomplished due to cooperation with Netherlands was introducing the concept of participatory water management. This includes involvement of farmers through forming water boards, or we call it water user associations. So this was very helpful to improve the efficiency of the system. And because of success of this mechanism and the project, the new law in Egypt, which issued about 2 months ago, included the forming of water boards and associations, and now these associations or boards became legitimate now, and the government will depend on these water boards to solve many issues. The involvement of farmers through the water board, means water service now is more predictable, and the increase, the production, agricultural production increased. So this was a very important outcome of this cooperation. Another field was water resource planning, under the title of facing future water scarcity. And the biggest challenge in Egypt is coping with the increase in water demand, while the water resources available are constant and limited. We still have a very big gap between the limited water resources available and the increasing demand. So the Egyptian Dutch panel supported the development of water policies and developed the National Water Resource Plan that describes how Egypt will safeguard its water resources in the future with respect to quantity and the quality, and how it will use these resources in the best way from a socio-economic and environmental point of view. So the National Water Resources Plan developed in 2017 until 2037, and this was a very important field due to this cooperation with Netherlands. Another field also, institutional reform within the ministry structure. Through this cooperation and the Dutch Egypt panel helped the ministry in reforming the structure of the ministry and introducing or establishment of groundwater sector. That was the first time to have a groundwater sector in the ministry. Due to this cooperation, this ground sector, deals with issues of implementation at implementation level and develop plans for future use of groundwater. And this sector became a key player in this structure of the ministry. Also,
sorry to interrupt you, but I understand you have a lot to say about 30 years of this relationship.
Yes.
But I'm afraid we're running out of time. So if you could conclude one final sentence.
Okay. So what I'd like to say is that this is, a very successful mechanism of cooperation, and we still have also a cooperation with Dutch. We have a new model for cooperation through two things, really. We are going to cooperate with Dutch through implementing of joint cooperation applied research. This is a new model of cooperation that will help the ministry to solve some issues through cooperation with National Water Research Center in Egypt and other research entities in Egypt. Second, we...
Sorry, I really have to stop you there.
Okay.
We are really running out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to very briefly, Ms. Perihan Alam, would you maybe in half a minute give your reflections on what Dr. Ragab just said? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Ragab, for recounting very briefly 30 years of cooperation, as was rightly said. If I would conclude very quickly on or reflect on what Dr. Ragab said, I think that here we're talking about a true cooperation that have developed into trust and friendship over the years. I think that this friendship was mainly it flourished because there was a lot of trust and confidence. There was a lot of understanding, there was a lot of sharing, and there was a lot of perseverance and commitment towards working towards solution. And if we looked at the example that Dr. Ragab have said, we would see that this cooperation was not only reflected on an operational level or just on a policy level, as the law that Dr. Ragab have referred to is now being drafted, but it's also through people-to-people, as Dr. Ragab rightly said, and cooperation when he was still a staff member at the ministry, and now he is the deputy minister. So I think that this is quite a successful, I would say, cooperation that have developed into friendship. And I think, if anything, that really shows the core strength, if we were to say, between the Dutch and Egypt relations, is that it became a friendship and not just a sort of a relation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Perihan. And thank you again, Dr. Ragab, for your very interesting insights. I would now like to zoom into another relationship and discuss the case of the Bangladesh Delta Plan. Now, sometimes a great partnership needs a great plan, and the Netherlands-inspired Bangladesh Delta Plan proved to be a foundation for facilitating climate change adaptation efforts. Now, the government of Bangladesh included an earmarked budget of in the 5-year plan of about $18 billion for the execution of identified projects. Funding is expected to come from investment programming pipelines via international partners such as the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and others. Today, we want to look at whether the Bangladesh Delta Plan indeed forms a foundation for investments at scale. And looking back, could we have done things differently? I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Mohammed Mahfudul Islam. He is the chief of the General Economics Division and Planning Commission of the Government of Bangladesh. Mr. Mahfudul Islam, welcome. I would like to ask you, first of all, how did you collaborate to make the steps from the Delta Plan to an investment plan?
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Well, you know, the government of Bangladesh from the very beginning of formulation of the Delta Plan emphasizes that BDP Delta Plan 2100 must be an investment plan instead of a strategic vision. And therefore, we underscored the importance of an investment plan with this mega plan, through which resource would be mobilized and investment will be guided. And in the way, this investment plan would be a tool for mainstreaming the BDP 2100 with the budgeting process, as well as with our Delta Plan concepts. To make this happen, the General Economics Division of Bangladesh Planning Commission, you know that this division has prepared this Delta Plan in consultation with the support from the Netherlands government. From the very beginning, GD collaborated with the government of Netherlands and as well as the World Bank for formulating a Delta investment plan up to a period of 2031. And also, while preparing this plan, we consulted all the stakeholders. They were in board. And in such a way, we through a rigorous consultation process with the assistance of government of the Netherlands and World Bank, we prepared the Delta Plan investment program as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to follow up and ask you, the Delta Plan originated from the Netherlands-Bangladesh collaboration, but what have been the most difficult challenges along the way in this long-term relationship?
Well, collaboration between Bangladesh and Netherlands has resulted formulation of BDP 2100, I have already mentioned, and it has also created opportunity to strengthen the partnership of these two countries in potential areas like water resource management, climate change adaptation mitigation, agriculture, urbanization, resilient infrastructure, and so on. This collaboration, particularly for the formulation of BDP 2100, started a decade ago. That means it took a long time, about a decade. Along the way, of course, behind this successful cooperation, we have to overcome some challenges. And these are mostly due to differences in two countries in separate aspects. We would like to mention this aspect. These are the development status and level and financing options of the two countries are different, and also geographical and physical challenges, transboundary and regional water cooperation, level of knowledge and technology, and government systems, institutional structure. These challenges we faced, but we overcome finally, and we have been successful in realizing a century-old mega plan like Bangladesh Delta Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Islam. And in your opinion, is a situation like in Bangladesh the ideal setting for developing long-term collaborations? I mean, there are several factors that are at play. So is it due to the friendliness of people, stability of institutions, dynamic growth, and can it be replicated elsewhere?
I would say the answer is yes. Perhaps you will agree that Bangladesh is doing well in making partnership with others at both home and abroad, in the form of government to government, government to NGOs, government to public and private partnership to achieve the desired goal of the country. Collaboration between Bangladesh and Netherlands is an example in this regard. Of course, friendliness of the people, stability and dynamic growth have played vital role behind this collaboration. The other factors that have contributed to build this successful and fruitful collaboration, I would like to mention, these are the top level political commitment and also leadership is an important factor that have contributed, and appropriate institutional anchoring is another factor, and openness of GUB official towards technology, ideas, and tools. Finally, sustainable socioeconomic growth of Bangladesh and increasing importance of the water and climate change sector are another factor that have contributed towards this collaboration. In response to your last part of your question, I'd like to say that there is scope for further strengthening the already built-in relationship, and it can be replicated elsewhere with more or less similar context and needs for socioeconomic development. However, it needs to be customized based on the demand of the replicated country. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these interesting reflections, Mr. Islam. We now have room for a couple of questions. Ray, you've been watching the chat. Are there any questions from the audience for our first two speakers?
Well, so far in the Bettable chat, I have not seen any. So I would like to invite those who have questions for either Dr. Raghat or Mr. Mafidul to use the Bettable chat. I send an invitation to everybody, the Bettable chat options that you have, to use that for your questions. Those questions will be recorded and can be answered also after the session.
Yes. Okay, well, if for now there are no questions, I'd like to move forward, and then if there are more questions coming in, we can take a bit more time later to address these. So that brings me to our second block of conversations, and for this we will travel to Vietnam and look into an academic relationship between Tu Loy University and TU Delft. Since 1989, Delft University of Technology is active in Vietnam on many water-related researches and projects. Together with ITC Twente, they work on deeper understanding of water management and the institutional strengthening of Vietnamese partners. TU Delft believes that capacity building, sharing of knowledge, and adaptation to climate change are valuable topics that are beneficial to all partners. This long-term collaboration makes it possible to improve all of these. We want to find out whether in this cooperation, inspiration and learning were mutual, what was learned along the way used and implemented? And are we ready for the next generation of experts to cope with what is ahead of us? To reflect on this, I'm very happy to have Dr. Pham Hong Na from TLU Vietnam on board, together with Ms. Marianne Krijns from the TU Delft. Good to have you both here today. Ladies, what is so special about the Vietnam situation, as 25 years of collaboration is quite an achievement? Who can I give the floor to?
Yes, I think that's me going to answer. In this framework of this Dutch bilateral relation in Vietnam, also there's a strong role for this academic partnership. And not only my own university, TU Delft, but also ITC Twente, IHE Delft, Utrecht University. We all work with our Vietnamese partners. Dr. Na from Tri Loy, but also Hoenre and the universities in Ho Chi Minh City. As academics, of course, we are like-minded minds and we have similar interests and both ambition to develop and share knowledge. So it's relatively easy for us as academics to cooperate. And there are also many Vietnamese alumni who studied in Dutch universities. And those alumni are also instrumental in this relation. They go back to their country. It's very easy to cooperate with them. Like Dr. Na and me, we are already friends for more than 20 years. So also a personal relation is really important to facilitate such a long-term cooperation. And although our countries like the Netherlands and Vietnam are quite different, we also have some similarities. We both have a long coastline, we both have important agriculture sector, and we are both, of course, Delta countries. So therefore, it's also on our both interests to learn from each other and cooperate. So that makes it all very logical and easy to work together.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Did you really learn together, or was one partner more in the lead?
Yes, Annika, I'm very pleased to answer you this question. Yes, as Marjan already mentioned, the 50 years of collaboration has brought great achievement for the two countries as we learn together. Of course, from the initial stage, the collaboration was more in the form of the ODA. So here we can see how successful an ODA can be, as from the collaboration at the government to government channel. The collaboration has been growing and blossomed, and now we have diversified our collaboration wider and also deeper, with more and more activities. As you through 25 collaboration, it's like the incubator of the advanced, the leading experts of coastal engineering and management for Vietnam. So TLU is very proud to have very strong and so effective, very active experts working with the local government, central government to solve the problems of the water resource development here in the country. But even more than that, we grow together. And as you know, the challenge of water resource, water security, disaster, don't care at all about the border. So we even expand our collaboration at regional level and through the continent. So we have developed the very strong network here in the Asia. As you know, the Asian deltas are so important. It's like a lifeblood for all the countries in the region. So IHE Delft and TU Delft are working with Vietnam partners and also regional partners. We try to share the knowledge, to share the experience, to achieve the common goal as the safe delta for all.
Thank you very much, Fam. That's very, very clear and inspiring to hear. And what about looking ahead about the next generation? Is the next generation of experts well enough prepared to deal with the growing complexity and uncertainty? And is knowledge transformation, knowledge exchange transformation in itself?
Thanks for your questions. Yes, it's very important questions at this moment. Although I think we are very happy, very delighted with the achievement so far, but it's not the time to sit back, because we see the problems is increasing, especially in the context of climate change and the booming development. So, and the key question is about the human resource and about technology development. And we talk a lot about the climate change, but the reaction from the society, from young generation, is very different. They seem that they don't really like these subjects very much, and so now we change our knowledge into how to raise further this question, the importance of water resource for the sustainable development. So how to raise the awareness of the society, how to improve our curriculum, how to renovate our research in order to meet the demand. So Maya, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, that's really something we are worried about, that the new generation in Vietnam, but I think in general in Asia, they like to study economics, marketing, informatics, while climate is the hottest topic at this moment. And the new, let's be honest, Dr. Na and me, we are getting old. We are not going to save this world anymore. We need this young generation. And they need to develop new tools and techniques. They have to be well prepared with it's crucial that we promote that they also start working in this field.
And I would like to add that as we have the embassy here in this platform, their support, their voice is so important to help the academics like us to raise this issue to the government level.
Thank you very much, Fam and Marianne, for these very inspiring reflections. And since you were talking about having the embassy here, and I did see Laurent, he is back, and he didn't get a chance to say something before. Laurent, I would like to briefly give you a minute to come in here also, because you were directly addressed.
Yes, thank you, Annika. Yes, it's an inspiring session. I hear a lot of interesting ideas coming up, and yes, one of the things that enlightens me is that we are normally we are very much at ease to talk about the hardware of the water sector, the drainage systems that Dr. Ragab was talking about, and the dikes and the sluices. But it's encouraging to also notice that we are also able to talk about our relationships. And I call that the hardware. We talk with our heart. We are human beings with feelings, and those are, I think, important in creating the kind of partnerships that last over decades and that make it possible to get this transformation. So I'm excited already. I hope that the other speakers can also join in and show us the multiple dimensions of their collaboration 2.0. Thank you very much, Annika.
Thank you very much, Guus. I would now like to continue with our final conversation today, and that is with Shanur Hassan. Shanur is the coordinator of the Diamond in the Delta network, and she also conducted her PhD research on the topic we are discussing today. So I'm looking forward to hear her perspective on this as well. Shanur, are you here? Yeah, there you are. So Shanur, it's not often that the quality and effectiveness of maintaining long-term relationships are questioned. What did you find in this respect?
Thank you, Anika. I would say that long-term bilateral relationships are crucial for building and maintaining the trust, friendship, and collegiality needed to make collaborations and joint development projects more effective and successful. And this building of trust, what I have seen and studied, is easier when the people involved understand each other's countries and backgrounds and cultures. So the question then becomes, how does this understanding happen? Based on my doctoral research, I can say that it does not happen through short-term project-based consultancies, but through involved people staying for longer term in each other's countries while developing and nurturing a connection to people, culture, and society. I have seen this when studying the development of the Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100 and the Mekong Delta Plan, that these two plan developments crucially hinged on people, especially on those Bangladeshis and Vietnamese who have studied in the Netherlands, know the Dutch water and people in the Netherlands, and have friendship and collegiality with Dutch experts. And similarly, these two plans hinged on the Dutch experts who have lived and spent time in Bangladesh and Vietnam. So if not for these people, this sort of people, the Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100 and Mekong Delta Plan would not have happened. And I would like to mention here that I have documented in my research about the complaints from some of the involved Bangladeshi partners about the fact that the Netherlands is sending fresh graduates or new consultants for short term who neither had work experiences in the Dutch Delta program nor knew much about Bangladesh. So this practice at the end has influenced having a more serious engagements and exchange of ideas and knowledge between the Bangladeshi and Dutch experts. So I would say that it is important what Marianne and Nang was also mentioning, to nurture friendship and mutual admiration between the Dutch and Bangladeshis, Vietnamese and Egyptians. And also importantly, create friendships, more active friendships between people from Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanur. Based on your research, what positive impact on society can long-term collaborations have?
I do not have a direct answer for this question. This is partly because I'm not the most affected and vulnerable ones living in, for example, in Khulna in Bangladesh, or in Semarang in Indonesia, or in the lower Mekong Delta in Vietnam. So I consider it important that the communities in deltas who experience flooding and other related weather events in everyday life identify the societal impact of these development collaboration projects that we are talking about today. And in our role as academics, researchers, practitioners, and development officials who deal with water, we need to realize that it is time that we revisit and rethink what we have so foreseen, understand, and promoted as positive impacts in terms of change, modernity, and development from some of the specific Delta Cooperation projects so far. If we look around, some of our major development challenges are biodiversity loss. If I would say, I can term them contemporary development challenges, the climate challenges, which would become more severe as projected in the IPCC report, and the increasing socioeconomic inequalities that we have all seen, which became more visible during this COVID pandemic, the inequalities between the rich and poor, the urban and rural landscapes, and the developing and least developed. So these challenges serve as a strong reminder to step back and think what development can or should be. And to do this, I think we need to understand and learn from the communities, from their perceptions and practices, so that we can forge long-term bilateral development collaborations into positive, lasting transformations towards sustainability and climate resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanur. So you've already gone into kind of recommending some things already, but if you go into that a bit more from your research, what are your most important, let's say, recommendations for long-term partnerships? We're all here now. What do we need to do to have impact?
I can mention few elements. Those elements would allow better learning between the partners, not necessarily only between the Dutch and the 3 partner countries we are talking about, but among the 3 other countries, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Egypt. And these elements would also support developing a deeper awareness of connections and interdependencies in the relationships to make it more symmetrical, I would say. So my first suggestion is to decenter the Dutch and to move away from this project tunnel vision to allow more open-ended and flexible approach that would allow more dialogues and interactions to happen. And also that would nurture friendships. And another element that I would like to emphasize is that recognize the differences and diversity in terms of wealth, nature, culture, language, knowledge, and expertise of each other. And lastly, but not least, pluralizing the conversations that, for making sure that it is not just that, for example, academically trained experts like me and you, Anika, that converse and collaborate, but also members of diverse communities from the deltas join conversations that we are having here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanur, for these very useful and inspiring recommendations. We have time for some questions, and I have received some questions. And I would also still like to encourage people, if you have questions for Shanur and for the Vietnam team, please do pose them. I see a question from Melvin van der Veen. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences from such a long-term relationship. I think this one is addressed to Egypt. Maybe my question would already be addressed later in this conversation. Anyhow, I'm curious to know what the Netherlands has learned, more specifically from Vietnam, Egypt, Bangladesh, focusing on water-related climate adaptation. That's quite a big question. And since it's addressed to the Dutchies, I would like to ask either Laurent or Guus to briefly go into this.
Yeah, maybe I can chip in here. I think one of the interesting experiences is the tidal water management for polders in Bangladesh, whereby sediment-rich water is allowed to flow into the polders to nurture the fertility of the soil and to heighten the soil. And this is one of the issues that the Netherlands can learn from, and we are actively also learning from these kind of strategies. Since it will also impact on the Netherlands when sea level rise is increasing every time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurent. And there's another question from Tung Dao. Among all Vietnamese projects that cooperated with the Netherlands government, what is the most challenging for both sides to continue improving the future cooperation? Laurent, I think again that may be something for you to answer.
Okay, I think that one of the challenges is that for countries like Vietnam, the development cooperation is diminishing, and a lot of academic exchange has been dependent on development cooperation. And now that the trade agenda is increasingly important, it becomes also important to seek ways to enable the private sector to not only participate more closely with the academics, but also to fund these kind of very successful and productive relations. But of course, that is still a challenge on how to secure long-term funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurent. Ray, are there any other questions? Or Jaap, for that matter?
I have difficulties accessing this chat. Maybe others have the same.
Yes, but sorry to break in, Raymond. I can read the questions on the Petable.
Oh, excellent. Then Jaap, you take over for me.
Yes, there is a question from Ernst Sonneveld. What were the most fruitful results from the Dutch-Vietnamese academic partnership that trickled down into Vietnamese policies and practices?
And maybe I can add something on that. We have done for a long period of time, we have done research, both master and PhD research on the Mekong Delta, and also how to introduce nature-based solutions in protecting the coastline and the delta. So we started with academic evidence, academic results, professors from our side, professors from Vietnamese side. And what you see now, it's taken over by the policy organization, so both by the departments, the Vietnamese departments, also by the development corporation like the World Bank and our Netherlands government. They are introducing now, for example, replanting of mangroves in the Mekong Delta, but also designing the delta in a different way so that you can still have agricultural development, but not overexploit your delta. So all these lessons learned started with science, and now they are used in policy making. So I'm very proud of that.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Jaap, are there any other questions? You're muted. Jaap, you're muted.
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there's just one coming in from Shervine El Watar. Thank you for a great session. I'm curious to know how the most vulnerable communities, smallholder farmers, poor communities, etc., are being involved in the planning of the programs as part of the Delta program.
I would like to give the floor then to Mr. Mahfudul Islam. Could you please answer this question?
Thank you very much. I think it's a very good question. As I have mentioned during my deliberation, that Delta Plan is a plan. It has been developed taking all the stakeholders on board and leaving no one behind. And we have following the approach of the Netherlands, we have arranged seminar, workshop, conference at the local level, and the opinions of the beneficiary people, targeted people. We have to listen them. And in the way during formulation of Delta Plan, we have heard about more than 10,000 people, starting from the community people, academicians, researchers, policymakers, as well as the executors. And we have it's a plan through which rigorous consultation was followed. And we organized workshop seminar at the central level, at the district level, sub-district level. Particularly, the Delta Plan is based on hotspots. 6 hotspots are identified, and during formulation of the Delta Plan, we used to visit all the hotspots to identify the challenges and opportunities. And we heard the voices of the people. So, and we have taken care of their voices in the Delta Plan. And I understand, and I firmly believe that the voices of the community people are taken care of as far as possible in the Delta Plan. That is in such a way we have realized the ownership and partnership of the targeted people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Islam. I think we have room for one more question or two very short questions. Yeah, is there anything else in the chat? No more? Okay. Okay. Well, in that case, I propose if our speakers would still like to share something with us, there's an opportunity for that now. Is there still something you would wanted to say, but you got caught off by me because I was watching the time like a hawk?
Okay, let me take this opportunity, if you allow me.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, all of you, for organizing this very beautiful and fruitful event. I think our subject is building long-term partnerships for societal transformation. And this is an event which can also further strengthen the relationship. As I can mention here that with the partnership of the Netherlands government, Bangladesh is the country that has been able to realize a long-term plan. I mentioned already, it's a century-old plan. So that is not enough. We need more cooperation. We need more knowledge transfer, technology transfer, financing, investment, and also in all the potential areas, including the business development and in everywhere. And perhaps you are aware that, and you have mentioned in the background speech that other development partners like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and JICA, they are coming forward. And Delta Plan, the beauty of the Delta Plan, that has already guided the investment and development priority of the development partners, that has already been reflected in the country strategy framework. So we are really grateful to the government of the Netherlands and others who have cooperated towards formulation of the plan. The way we have received your cooperation, in the same way, we would like to have cooperation of the Netherlands governments towards successful implementation of Bangladesh Delta Plan. And once again, I reiterate my heartfelt thankfulness to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Islam. There is one more question that came in, and I would like to ask Dr. Ragab maybe to share her reflections if you would like. It's a question from Arjan Budding. To overcome project-only collaboration and therewith the difficulty to develop long-term relationships, is joint development of a knowledge infrastructure a good option, or do you have other suggestions?
Yes, if I understand the question, I mean to develop a joint research. What we have now is to benefit from the Dutch experience, you know, and what we change it to joint research or a joint applied research. You know, we need to we have some issues we need to tackle. So I think we need to activate and strengthen the research in Egypt to solve these issues. We are implementing now an infrastructure, a big project rehabilitation of canals and introducing modernization in Egypt of irrigation system. And we need to solve some issues we are facing now in implementing such a project, you know. So I think this cooperation with Netherlands will help in solving some issues. Also, we have a problem with climate change, you know, and Egypt is vulnerable to climate change. We are studying now, we are trying to prepare integrated coastal zone management plan. And this is also a very important area. We will cooperate with Netherlands. So we are now preparing this joint cooperation modalities. This we are working on with Dutch team.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raghav. This brings me almost to the end of our session, and our goal today was to learn more about the value of long-term relationships, and relationships that also go beyond the individual relations. I think we can really conclude today that there is so much more to these relationships than meets the eye, but it's encouraging to know that people are comfortable discussing this. We can also take away that building long-term relations is essential to contribute to societal transformation. And what I personally found intriguing is that at the end of the day, no matter how well planned and thought through ideas are, it is people working together that have to realize this. Or in the words of Bertrand Russell, the only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation. Now, with these final words, I would like to give the floor back to the session organizers to give their final reflections and share possible follow-up steps with us. Guus and Laurent, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Annika. I would like to thank also very much all the speakers and the participants who actively contributed to this lively session. I was particularly struck by the frankness of some of the speakers, like Mr. Islam was frankly telling about the differences between countries, Vietnam and the Netherlands, and that those pose sometimes challenges, but that they have overcome. And Shanur also was frankly about decentering the Dutch and about very inexperienced Dutch people coming to advise in the different countries. So I think that frankness is very important, because if we talk about relationships, we talk also about power relationships. And I think the frankness that we have experienced in today's session is an opening to get more symmetry into our relations. We are not only teaching, we are learning and engaging and exchanging. I think there should be there is a common interest in all of us to create symmetry in these relations, and that is often not easy, because some of us have money or they have knowledge and others don't have. So how to build this symmetry is quite difficult. But I think today's moderator Annika was already very experienced in bringing symmetry into this very good session. So thank you very much, and over to Guus.
Thank you, Laurent, and thank you all for sharing. I am intrigued by the content of the session that we had today. I want with the emphasis on the relationship, the words of symmetry, the message about involving young people, but not only unexperienced. I want to bring this forward. I think it's very important. Presently, we're developing the new Partners for Water program, and I want to explore ways to integrate these aspects into the program, and also to obtain real insights in the dynamics of the partnership relationships. After the meeting, I will get in contact with our partners to discuss this more in detail. You will hear from me. I would like to thank our speakers for their vivid contribution. Really, thank you very much for that. And of course, Annika, for excellent moderation. Thank you all. And of course, I would like to thank all participants for contributing and participating in the session. If you have any remarks or questions after this session, please do not hesitate to send me an email. It's indicated. I would like you all for participating, and have a great continuation of the Stockholm World Water Week. Goodbye. Thank you all.